Goldman Sachs tells us that the creator economy is going to be worth $470 billion over the next couple of years. And we've got a fantastic panel that lives and breathes it. So I'd like to introduce Melissa Laurie, who's MD of Oysterly, and she will introduce her panel.
Testing. Hi everyone, so nice to be here today. So my name's Melissa, and as Mel mentioned, I'm the founder and managing director of Oysterly. We're a short form video agency out here in Singapore, and we work with leading brands to help create all their user generated content. And I'm excited to be joined by an amazing panel today. So I'm going to bring up on the stage Audrey, Vanessa and Stuart, and they're going to introduce themselves. So starting with you, Audrey, and then we'll go down the line. Feel free just to introduce yourself and share a little bit more with everyone in the audience.
Hi, I'm Audrey. I'm from Wild Group. We are a hybrid entertainment company based here in Singapore. So one of my main focuses is to oversee our agency. So working with our exclusive creator roster, so creator management, and to service our clients with campaign management and to partner them with creators that will help their brands reach their objectives. So prior to taking on this role, I was a full-time creator. And so it was good to take that experience and bring it to this role. And I've worked with, quite a list of brands as well. And it's kind of interesting to see how the creator economy has changed since then. So yeah, looking back from then until now, there's been so many developments in the ways that brands can work with creators and, the ways that creators can monetize. So I'm really interested to hear what everyone's thoughts are. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa Brown. I work for TikTok. So my role is Director of Strategic Partnerships and Business Development across APAC. I've been with TikTok for 4 years, which in TikTok years is a lifetime. So just watching the growth across SEA and the wider APAC region has been quite phenomenal. So I'm happy to join and share some experiences and some knowledge around the creator economy in the region.
Okay, and I'm Stuart. I'm the brand side of the threesome we have here today. I am the vice president of marketing for Sephora. I've been with Sephora about 3 years, and then before that, about 15 years in marketing overall. Like you, Vanessa, I've sort of seen a lot of how the creator economy has changed because I've been working with creators and influencers since my days in P&G, and then continuing to evolve and particularly get intensive in Sephora.
Yeah, welcome. Great to have such a good panel. And so I know that the term creator has risen to a lot of popularity over the last few years. And so I want to just ask the panelists what they think the term creator means to them and how they can explain it to the audience here today. And I did a bit of a social sniff and had a look at everyone's social profiles. So I might start with Audrey because she is actually a content creator as well. So feel free to share.
I think the term creator is super, super broad, but to me, it's people who create content for digital platforms, so social media platforms, blogs, websites. They create content, they engage with their audiences. So I think, yeah, basically, anyone who creates and publishes content is classified to me as a creator.
And let me add that I don't think I disagree with anything Audrey said. So for us, a creator would be anybody who is creating content and publishing on the platform. And I think from a TikTok perspective, we really see our mission is to kind of invest in the platform with tools and education and all that we can do to make sure that the platform is, a place where creators can come and express their creativity.
I have to say the question made me pause a little bit because when we talk about creators, while the noun seems to imply creation of content, a lot of the reason we've introduced that word into our vocabulary is because of the community that they've created. So there are a lot of people who make content, producers, creative agencies, ad agencies, directors in the entertainment industry, but creators tend to be a word we use when we're referring to someone who's built a community around their content. And I find that whenever I'm talking about creators, I'm actually looking at the audience that they've built and the relationship they have with that community a lot more than the content per se, because you can get that from lots of different sources, but that direct relationship is a lot of the times where the partnership becomes valuable, and also what the creator themselves is trying to preserve and grow.
Yeah, I think that,
Oh, no, I was going to say I like that. Yeah.
It's funny because you asked me that question. I'm like, everybody knows what a creator is. Why are we talking about this on the panel? But then I was like, actually, it's funny. They're not really about what they make as much as about what it makes their audience feel, and that very unique relationship in the creative space.
Yeah, and I think it's a really, really important point, Stu. I think that the diversity of creators has exploded over the past kind of few years, and it is about those audiences and the communities they create, whether it's large or niche or whatever that might be. It's very much about the communities that creator is building.
yeah. And I think actually this leads in nicely to the next question, because there's been a rise of UGC creators as well. So these smaller creators that are now working with really large brands. And so I might stick with you, Stuart, on this question, just to understand a little bit more about Sephora, or even in your previous roles with how you've worked with content creators. And I did have a look at Sephora, and I know you've got a massive audience on Instagram. I think there's over 22 million followers, and they're working with a lot of creators. So I think we'll all be just keen to hear your thoughts on that.
It's a live and ever evolving conversation, because I think we're very lucky at Sephora to be, in many cases, the gateway to beauty content. Like, we represent most creators, most brands have a presence at Sephora. We have a lot of exclusive brands. So we kind of a little lucky in that we sell the entire category. So we're already a natural magnet for people who are interested in beauty, and there are a lot of people out there. How we've been experimenting, though, is we have, especially in our largest markets, direct content programs where we've got studios and hubs that create direct to Sephora's owned accounts in terms of content at scale. But what we've actually been learning is, in many cases, especially here in Asia, our team has discovered that the content that we work with through partners, through external creators that are not part of our own ecosystem, are actually some of our best performing content, even when we republish. And so we've started really looking for ways we can expand that relationship up and build a much greater infrastructure for Sephora around partnered content and earned content. And that's happening at a couple of different levels. We have a region-wide influencer network program. We have market-specific influencer network programs. And we also have our own beauty associates in the store. We've realized a lot of them have joined Sephora because they're passionate about beauty. They were making content in their spare time. And so we've actually realized they're very small followings. They're looking to grow. They want to build their influence. And we've been building a program just for them to help them get to that next stage of their career and potentially quit to become creators in their own right as part of their career development as at the moment a shop floor beauty associate, but who knows where they might end up. And we've had a lot of success stories of beauty associates becoming influencers in their own right, then coming back to us in our influencer programs, then coming back to us to launch their own product at Sephora.
That's really interesting. And so with your programs that you've launched, is there a requirement for the creators to get into that program, or how does that work? Many of our programs are selection-based, where we rely on our social and PR teams to be expert scouts at picking the creators who we feel the right for the program. Because it is a collaborative program. It requires a lot of lean in on both sides to build partnerships, because we do not advocate sponsorship in this particular program. We really want that natural relationship between the creator and her audience to thrive. So we're looking for a win-win partnerships, and that means you need to be really careful about who you pick into the program. So it's invite-based and invite only, and it's very hand-picked and selective. At the beauty associate level, they need to volunteer. It's an extra piece of work on top of their day job, which is not an easy one if any of you have worked in retail. And what we try and do there is we say, you're part of it, you're invited in, and as long as you're able to perform in your day job as well, we continue to give you opportunities to participate. Interesting. Okay. So might hop over to Vanessa, because I'm just curious, because I know that TikTok has a big creator platform. So how has TikTok been sort of working or supporting creators as well?
I think we spend a lot of time working in the communities, educating. So whether it's brands, whether it's creators, governments, we do a lot of work around education. So how to kind of embrace it, building a lot of tools. So we have TikTok Creator Marketplace, we have the Creator Portal, we have the creativity centers, really investing in giving creators the tools and the educations on how to grow. And same thing, working with the brands to help them understand how to work together. I think it's evolved so much in the last few years, and it's great to hear the success stories of Sephora, to see that creators are building, what starts as a side hustle is building into a full-time occupation as creators. So our job, we see, is really kind of empowering that ecosystem and really supporting, the environments to grow as creators.
And just on the creator marketplace as well, can any creator sign up to the marketplace, or how does that work?
So creators, it's almost like a matching service where brands can go and find creators who have signed up, and they can look for the right creators. And we talked about kind of the communities these creators are building. And I think what's really evolved in the last few years is definitely the evolution from a range of creators. So I think some of the niche creators who might have a smaller following but have a super engaged audience or a super engaged community in a niche area can be as successful with brands as the larger creators. So I think that's really evolved over the last few years, that those smaller creators who are building a really tight connection, who align with your brand, align with the values, have an opportunity to work well with brands.
Yeah. And I think just speaking from a personal experience, we've worked with a lot of smaller creators in our company as well, and they're amazing to work with. Like, the talent is phenomenal as well. I think it's just finding what to look for.
And I think, we've really found that the authenticity is really important. TikTok as a platform, I think our ecosystem is kind of grows on the authenticity. So I've come across creators who've turned down partnerships because the values of the brand didn't align with their community, and they wanted to be authentic to their community. And that, I think the audiences these days can see through what's not authentic. So I think that's really changed as well, is that authenticity is really important for creators and for brands to tap into.
That does tend to be one of the recruitment criteria. We are looking for creators who have really authentic relationships and almost turn down deals. So if they're not someone who would be widely sponsored, we're actually a little bit more interested because they have a commitment to growing their following. They have a commitment to building their own community that we're anxious to provide. And I am proud to say that a lot of our BAs are making content that outperforms our own directly produced content in terms of engagement for beauty audiences. It just resonates better. It just feels more native. It feels more genuine. And I think people respond to that.
Yeah. And I think we've seen all those videos which are a bit more lo-fi, with people filming in the car, or those get ready with me and, doing their makeup as well. And I agree with that. I think there's definitely been a shift with people just wanting that more natural, authentic content. But what about you, Audrey? How's your company working with creators?
Yeah, I mean, we work with a variety of, smaller creators and larger creators. And just adding on to those points as well, I think, there is value in working with the smaller creators because they have that niche following, and they have oftentimes, a more engaged and loyal audience that follows them. And so it kind of gives that authenticity, like you said, and, the audiences trust them and they have that credibility. But I think, we also work with larger creators too. So I think it really just, depends on what the objectives are. There's value in working with smaller creators or larger creators. I think it really just depends.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. So just switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about trends, because there's been a lot that's changing in the creator economy. And I know that Vanessa and I just touched on the shoppertainment movement. So I might start with you, Vanessa, with what you're seeing with trends in the creator economy.
I guess we're seeing probably two main things that I can kind of talk to, which is the first one is around consumers coming onto the platform to search, to learn and educate themselves. So a big kind of thing around education and learning and really trying to find things. So search is really growing on the platform. And we've done a whole lot of research in the space. So we found that 1 in 4 consumers globally on TikTok will take action after they've come onto the platform. So I think the platform is really driving action off the platform, which is really, really interesting to see. I mean, you've all heard stories of goods being sold out, and BookTok is a phenomena across the world. Booksellers, whenever I talk to a bookseller, they're absolutely loving the platform because it's bringing out-of-date books back into publication. So BookTok has really revived books, which is fascinating. So that's one kind of trend we see. And then the other one is kind of really coming out of Southeast Asia, and it's shoppertainment. So we've done a piece of research with Accenture that's really shown that users on the platform and consumers these days are really expecting their content when they shop to be entertaining. And that's really changed, I think, a lot of what's happening. So we, as a platform, we're seeing that we've got 15 million sellers on the platform globally selling content. And it's opening up another area for creators to come in and work with those brands to sell. So it's really kind of opening up more for the creator economy, people to come on and sell through live shopping on the platform. And I think that's going to drive it. I've been interested to see what Sephora is seeing on that as well. But definitely we're seeing a lot of growth, a lot of small business being kind of really, really going through this. In Malaysia, for example, we've got a million sales on the platform, 98% are small business.
Oh, wow.
So I think shoppertainment is definitely here to stay. I think brands are starting to join that because they're seeing their consumers are expecting it. You know, the same piece of research that we saw, I think we said we saw that consumers are saying in 1 to 2 years, 69% of consumers are expecting brands to be producing content of that style. So when your consumers are expecting it, the brands are following as well.
Yeah, great. Anyone else wants to hop in on that in terms of trends that they're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, from a retailer standpoint, I would resonate with what you're saying. Like, I think it's never been the environment of product discovery has been fundamentally flattened by how much social content is driving discovery. You have an account, you can have a potential to go viral with whatever you're talking about if you happen to hit the zeitgeist and it just kind of gets out from under you and becomes a trend. And this has meant that the bar for product discovery also has gone up. So it's never been easier, but it's also never been harder because there's more competition for making your product interesting and relevant. And so, what our CEO is very famous for saying is retail is not dead, boring retail is dead. And so as a result, everyone who wants to, if you want to put your product out there and be discovered, you almost have an obligation to make sure that you're thinking about a way to introduce it in a much more varied and diverse way. You've got to throw a number of runs at the goal. It used to be in the old days, you'd put one spot out, you'd put $1 million against it, you'd make money. Now product discovery is almost by nature needing to be incredibly diversified and come at you from various different ways, various different sub-communities. And you figure out one of those paths ends up being the one that makes you, 20, 40% of your revenue.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point. And I think even when you think about scrolling on social media, you've got less than a few seconds to grab someone's attention. And even when I was just having a look at Sephora's social profiles, I could see that you're creating a lot of content which is in different settings. So outdoors, in the car, doing your makeup. But I think that's also really important, giving lots of different texture to the content.
Yeah, but you're in an environment where you're scrolling, right? So if you start jumping on the trend the same way everybody else has jumped on the trend has moved. Yeah. And you now need to move on. So you need, I don't think it's about perfecting one approach. It's about having thousands of simultaneous ones. Yeah. And that's the key. That's one of the reasons why we found it's hard to keep up with it from a centralized standpoint. You need to use your network to build it out because you just can't make thousands of pieces of content simultaneously on your own.
And what about you, Audrey? What trends are you seeing in the creator economy?
I think, just tapping onto that as well, we're seeing a lot of, brands inquiring a lot about live streaming because I think that's a really big up and coming one. But on the creator side of things, I think when it comes to monetizing content, what I'm seeing a lot of lately and a lot of, mainstream social media platforms launching on theirs is paid subscription models. So, people making exclusive content and exclusive features for paid subscribers. So it'll be interesting to see how brands tap into that as well.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah. And just to add on to this as well, I think that I see a really big shift with consumers starting to search more on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and even YouTube. And it's sort of been a bit of a shift from Google. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how that evolves over the next few years as well. So let's talk about monetization because this is a big one for creators. So imagine you're a small creator and you're creating all this content for brands. How do you get paid? So I might start with you, Audrey. What are your thoughts on monetization and what trends are you seeing in that space?
I mean, like I said before, there's so many different ways for creators to monetize, which is great because, it's becoming an increasingly feasible career path for people to do, exactly that, which is creating. So, it's not simply just about making branded content anymore. There's so many things, there's the live streaming aspect to it. There's, like I said, paid subscription. But yeah, I just think there's so many different, the creator economy is always evolving because, trends are coming and going so fast and, consumer behavior changes as well. And, there's always new technological advancements as well. So
can you share more about the paid subscription?
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is something that I've seen recently on Instagram where it's, subscribers will pay, a monthly fee to access exclusive features and exclusive content that a creator posts. So it's, a more, I guess, engaged following of that creator. But that's, something new that I've seen creators kind of tap into in order to monetize their content.
Interesting. Yeah. And what about you, Vanessa, from TikTok point of view? Like, I think just to kind of reiterate, I think we're seeing definitely areas in the shoppertainment. So creators who are working on, working with brands to help them sell their products. I think live, the kind of live subscription as well. The live product is working as well. So we see a lot of creators developing that as an area as well. We're seeing, I guess, almost like two pools too. The creators that we're seeing who are focusing on content and the creators who are focusing more on shopping as well. So two different areas. So I think, like I said, we really invest in building out tools and, there's opportunities, the marketplace, the creator portal, the creativity center to really empower creators. I think, you can touch one of your points, Stu, earlier. I think it's becoming, there's more opportunity, but it's harder as well for creators, right? There's more opportunity to do more, but there's also more creators who are all fighting for those brands. I think that's a real challenge for creators to really learn how to make good content and then also learn how to work with brands as well.
And just on that, what challenges do you see with creators looking to monetize as well?
I think it's going to be the volume of creators who are out there from niche to large. And then I think too, creators learning the balance of creating good content for your community and building your community and then learning how to engage with the commercial opportunities. Yeah. I think getting that balance right is going to be a test for creators as well to do.
There are probably the way the creator economy or the creator ecosystem has evolved is there are now two really important inflection points. One is kind of breaking beyond the clutter. There's this point where there's just a lot of micro influencers out there trying to build their brand. Someone will get their break, either a unique angle into content, a community that has been otherwise unrepresented, finding representation and rallying behind this particular person, or just sheer straight up luck. Which is something we can't underestimate. And that lets creators kind of get into a higher level of visibility amongst where opportunities start being presented to them from their partners, from brands, and that sort of thing. But the next big one is when you become quite big. And for a very long time, we would see this natural cycle where a creator would get large, start, trying to make a business out of themselves, expose themselves to sponsorship. Their audience started feeling, hey, this person isn't quite as credible as I thought they were. Move on to the next person, and then they'd lose that credibility. And I've seen this happen back in the days of magazines where there were beauty editors that would be the voice of influence, and then after everyone started realizing these people get paid out, completely became irrelevant. So what's interesting now is creators are looking, as they hit that second inflection point, for ways they can keep their authenticity while building a business for themselves that lets them expand. And this is where they're starting to expose themselves to, well, how do I transition into a brand, either through entertainment and content, where I can build a following and usually subscriptions to drive that. I can launch a product. I can be an affiliate salesperson. So yes, I'm making money, but my credibility is protected, and other routes like that. So they can kind of keep it going and get to that next stage where they're starting to get more into artist, celebrity, and or business owner kind of territories. And that's a really critical thing. I don't think we've landed a lot of the support systems necessary to help them. It's something that, commercial brands are trying to be better at, because otherwise we're killing the golden goose in some cases. And I know platforms are working very, very hard to figure out a way to do at scale.
I think it's a really interesting point that you raise. And I think I'm curious just to hear as well, if everyone wants to pick this up, about influencers. And also, do you think that there's a growing sort of shift with brands now working with more smaller or micro creators and sort of shifting away from influencers? So whoever wants to sort of pick that one up.
I think yes and no. There's, smaller creators, there's obviously the benefits because it's more cost effective. Often, these days, especially the larger, more established creators, they can charge extremely high prices, and sometimes maybe it's not realistic for brands to be spending, tens of thousands of dollars on one creator. And like we mentioned earlier, the smaller creators can have a more niche following, and whether that's food or, parenting or beauty. And I think brands can kind of strategize with that by, working with a lot of smaller creators to reach a wider audience and kind of tap into their more, I guess, loyal and engaged following. So I think we're seeing brands doing that a lot more as of late.
I see a couple of different approaches. I'm completely resonating with what you're saying. There's one of the biggest challenges brands sometimes have is they take a bit of a scattershot approach to working with creators. They kind of go, well, I got this budget. What can I get? Let's throw some money at people and see what comes back. It's not very effective because, micro-influencers are great when you're looking for high engagement, but they're low scale. So if you want to get a good micro-influencer program off the ground, you need to be operating at the hundreds, if not thousands of creators simultaneously level for that to sort of meaningfully impact. And then you look incredibly credible, but enough people are seeing with you that it's worth building that structure. Larger creators are great, but if you're going into a situation where that creator is demanding a huge amount of sponsorship, your mental model is probably better looking at that like a celebrity endorsement, where you're more thinking about that's the model that creator wants to operate in, which is no longer a traditional creator model. Now you're starting to say, well, this is the same kind of arrangement I do with a sports athlete or a celebrity. I'm looking to take their likeness and put it into my brand marketing versus tap into their audience per se. And then you've got in between, which is where, our influencer programs at a higher level tend to operate in, where we're looking for people who are not looking to cash out of their audience, but are looking to grow their business and are a little bit more open to partnership conversations. But that does mean you're not looking at the 20 million follower kind of level of creator, because at that point they are celebrity territory and are looking at sponsorship more than anything, because they've got their own revenue line and they're quite happy to focus on that and keep their audience to monetize that component.
So I just got the sign that we've got less than 5 minutes left. So I'm just going to round off with the last question, which is, if you could give 3 tips for a brand wanting to start working with creators, what tips would you give?
I guess I'll come from the creator side of things. I think the first tip and the most important is that if you're working with creators, you're gaining access to their established audience. So it is a little more authentic than traditional advertising, but I think brands need to understand that creators have their own unique brand identity too. So letting them take the creative freedom when it comes to creating branded content, I think will always yield the most positive results. Second, I think numbers are not everything. And I mean this in terms of follower counts. Like we said before, there's, benefits to working with smaller, more niche creators as opposed to always going for the high following counts. It really just depends. And then third, when it comes to like brand creator relationships, maybe gifting is a good one to, facilitate and build that relationship. I think those are.
Yeah, nicely said.
Yeah.
And I'll jump in from the platform side. So I would say for anyone who's looking to work with creators, I think jump on the platform or the platforms and have a go. I think I'm always amazed by how many people I meet and I'll say, are you a TikTok user? Are you using it? And they're spending money on the platform and they're not using it. So my first advice is any brand, don't rely on your teams to do it. Get on the platform, understand the content.
I agree. And have a look. Just do a scroll.
I think you get such a different understanding if you're on the platform and using it. You'll find what comes to your For You page. You'll see what creators you like. You'll see what kind of content's happening. You'll get to understand the platform more. So definitely engage with it, learn and go with it. So I think that's a very important piece of advice first up for all brands. Then I'd say too is test and learn, like try some things. To your point of doing thousands of pieces of creative, it's really test and learn. So test to see what's working, understand what's working. In that kind of education piece, what trends are working, what creators align with your brand. Like do the work to understand where the platform is and what works for you. And then I think too the last piece of advice is relax and trust, which I think every brand has that response. I think, we talked a lot about being authentic and we talked a lot about being, kind of using these creators. Creators spend a lot of time creating their content, building their communities. They know their communities better than any brand will. And it's very hard for brands to relax and let go and let the creators create. I've seen so many examples of brands giving creators old school briefs that would work for a TVC in the 1990s, but not for a creator now. So really try to relax and have some trust in the creators you're investing with and let them create for you, because they will have a better result doing that.
So the thing about when you go last in one of these things, all the good tips are taken. But if I can kind of synergize a lot of what these guys say and underline it, the one thing I'd probably say is if I was starting over as a brand building a program, the one thing that I would really recommend you do is think of it as you're building an infrastructure, not a transactional relationship. So what you want to do is you want to take a step back and go, how do I build a relationship or a network with creators that can scale really, really quickly and work at a high volume? Because the objective is not to just get a certain output from a creator in one relationship. You're looking for an ongoing relationship. You're looking for a relationship that can work with a really, really large amount of creators, because that will give you the maximum chance of success, as well as the ability to kind of trust, learn, try things at scale, right? When it's one relationship with one creator, it's a high stakes relationship for everybody involved. It's very stressful. When you're kind of bringing in a network that you've built at a couple of different levels that can work at a huge amount of scale and be always on, you've got thousands and thousands of chances to make it work. And you can learn together how to do it authentically and how to balance the relationships of control and get to a really powerful place of, and this is my second tip, a mindset of partnership. You don't want to be driving the bus, because that's the whole reason you're working with this creator. If you wanted to be in control, you want to look at a sponsorship agreement, you want to look at a celebrity ambassador. But if you're saying, hey, I really like your following and I want to be part of that, you've got to take a philosophy of, then I want them telling me how best they can represent my brand to their community. And that means you need to be able to have a dialogue. And so is your infrastructure and ecosystem enabling that so they come to you with the ideas? I can speak on behalf of my team. Some of the best ideas we've had have come from the creator coming to us with something and going, hey, I think this is cool. What do you guys think? And we do it, and that ends up being better than what we had in mind. So you need what I'm saying is that's easy to say in practice. It's very hard to cultivate as a culture and as an always on thing. That's what you need to do when you build your ecosystem. So start with a blank piece of paper, go, how do I create a network that scales and works like this versus let me go grab an influencer today and start working, because that's very short term.
Thank you so much. Can we give them a round of applause?